So Mike, just to kick us off, I know you quickly did introduce yourself, but tell us a little bit more about how long you've been in the business to start off, and then how you've started to build your business.
Yeah, definitely. So I've been in the business for about 5 months. I started April 1st. That's when I quit my engineering job full time. And then since then, I sort of just hit the ground running. So I did, knowing when I wanted to get into real estate, I did about 8 months work prior to getting in the industry. And that, all the work that we can talk about that led up to me starting, allowed me to hit the ground running. So the first night ever, it was -5, snowing in the dark. I went out door knocking for 3 hours, got my first 2 listings first night. First one was 700,000, the other was another one around that. So first night, again, from consistent about actions. Being someone who likes fitness and health, I realized that in order to get any tangible results, you had to be consistent with what you're doing. And I feel like that's one of the big pitfalls per se of real estate agents, is they're not consistent in their actions, and they fall short. So ever since then, I've just been sort of working on a very strict schedule, and with the input of different people like the CEO of Redline and different things like that, we've been able to keep this momentum going and been doing quite well.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. So on that note, tell me about your schedule. So start me first thing in the morning and then walk me through until the end of the night, because I know you're very structured with how you go about your day.
Yeah, definitely. So I recently redid my schedule, and it's been producing some amazing results. So essentially, for the last 2 years, I've been getting up at 4 a.m. 7 days a week. It doesn't matter when I go to bed. It could be I could go out for a night, and I could go out until 2 p.m., 4 o'clock every morning. So I get up at 4. I usually answer emails between 4 and 5 in the morning. And while that sounds crazy, what I've noticed is that clients have started realizing that I respond to them at 4:30 in the morning. And I've actually gotten to people's dinner tables because they say, you know what, I see when you're responding to your emails, I want someone that's working that hard to work from my house. And I've literally recently had someone say that is the only reason why you're at the table right now, because I've never seen anyone respond to crazy hours like that. So 4 to 5, answer emails and just sort of get my life together. 5 till 7, I go to the gym and I get dressed, get all ready to go. 7 till 8, I usually do something which Darren and I with, which is called the Power Hour. So I do blogs, upload videos, anything media content related. 9 until 12, I do prospecting. Now, I do sort of cold calls between 9 and 12, because if someone's not home, it's the quickest way to figure that out. You know, when you door knock at that hour, you usually get a lot of empty doors. Whereas if you're cold calling, you can brush through it really quickly. And when you use a triple line dialer, you know, it doesn't matter if you don't get an answer. In the afternoon, I usually do showings, different client related work. And then I do a second round of prospecting. Now that second round is usually 6 till 8 p.m. or 3 till 5 p.m. I like doing door knocking in the evenings because that's when everyone's home. That's when the conversion's highest, and you can sort of get people after work and have a good conversation with them before they head off to dinner, or when they're just relaxing after work. So, and then from 9 until 11 or so, I usually do more client work, whether it be CMAs or market research, briefing myself, what's expiring, what's coming on, just a little bit of wherewithal to brief myself with how things are doing in the city. And then 11 till 12, I usually just do some knowledge-based stuff. So I read, I watch YouTube videos, anything that can sort of give me some peace of mind or help me.
Yeah, that's a full day of real estate right there, absolutely. Yeah. So if you wouldn't mind sharing, when we first sat down, we were talking a little bit more about door knocking and how you approach that. And a lot of times the door knocking can be challenging because you're concerned that door is going to get slammed in your face, which would be my why I wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But tell me how you approach, whether it's your own script or whether it's just, I don't think you have as much of a script, it's more how you approach walking up that door and then the conversation that you have with the seller.
Yeah, definitely. And door knocking for me has gone quite well, you know, like it depends on the neighborhood. I do a lot of prospecting in the lower southeast, where it's usually younger families, and they're more or less quite receptive to anyone in general. So even their rejections are very soft. You go to different areas in Calgary, sometimes it might not be the case. But usually what I do is I knock on the door. As you have to say, you say, "Hi, my name is Mike Sherrad, I'm with Redline Real Estate." The first thing I say after that is, "Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to buy or sell a house." Because so many people say, "Hi, have you ever been considering about making a move, buying a house?" That is just such a cold start to the conversation. The answer is almost instantly going to be no every single time. So I just get that out of the way. You know what? I'm not here to ask you that. I let them know, you know what? I am present in the southeast quadrant. I've been doing a lot of business, getting great results. People have been recently asking me questions about the market in Auburn Bay, asking about value for their house, how the market's doing, different trends in the area. Wanted to see if you yourself have any questions. You know, so sometimes you're like, "Oh yeah, you know, how is the market doing?" And you can make sure you're knowledgeable about where you are prospecting, because being young and 24 and 5 months in the business, if they knew that, they probably wouldn't think that I was that knowledgeable. So when you do provide some value, that's excellent. The next thing, if they say no, that is completely fine. You say, "You know what, that's completely okay." I have been sending the monthly market report to certain people in the neighborhood, and they find it quite valuable. That way, because for me, it's not really, to get an appointment at a door is very hard. To get an email is what I'm after. Because once I can get an email, I can set them up on my monthly market report, and every month they're going to get something from me. They're never going to forget about me. So oftentimes, I'll get an email, and then 3 months down the road, they'll say, "Hey Mike, I remember you door knocked me at the beginning of your market report. Now I'm considering making a move. I wanted you to come by and take a walk at my house with me." So it's not about getting, if you can get in a meeting, amazing, but it's just about getting that email, because it's very soft. You know, it's not pushy. Let them know you're not going to spam them with crap, but they're going to get something that could be of value to them, which is what you want to do. And what I also try and do after I get that email is have a light conversation with them. Being a car guy, if I see a nice vehicle in their driveway, I got them, because I can speak about something they're passionate about that I am too. If they've got dogs, kids, whatever it might be, whatever shows up at the door with them, I leverage in the conversation to show that I actually care about them as a person. Not that I'm just there soliciting to get their business. You know, and that always goes well, because sometimes I'll have 15-minute chats with someone, and they see that I'm just honestly out here trying to meet people and put myself in front and build good relationships. I'm not a salesy type person.
Is that an approach that you learned over time? So did you go out and do more of maybe the hard door knocking sales approach and find that didn't work and then adjust?
It's a bit of a hybrid, you know. I always knew, because I did so much background research before I started, I knew that I didn't want to be that pitchy person, but I had to sort of hone the craft a bit, and I'm still learning, you know. But even as far as I dress, you know, I never wear this door knocking. Maybe if I go to Aspen or Discovery Ridge or something like that, I'll suit up a little bit. But I honestly saw that people, when I wore a black suit or a different suits, they thought I was from a group that they don't want to answer. So now I wear a polo and dress pants. And it's so much more casual that they're very receptive to it, because they're like, "You know what, this guy, let's see what he's about," because you can tell he's not some business solicitor. What's he doing here? So I get a lot more conversion by just dressing down a bit and seeming more of like a real person.
I think that's huge. Now let's say that you go door knock and the door is slammed on your face. How do you go and bounce back from rejection?
I just honestly don't care. Like, for me, like, this happened up in Evanston one time. I was door knocking, someone opened the door, I didn't even say a word. They opened it and slammed it instantly. And I shit you not, the next door I went to was a guy who wanted me to sell his house and referred me to his brother. They were from the same ethnic background, which wasn't mine, so you can't put any stereotypes on anything what the reception would be, but it was just knowing that the next door could be the best door. And you're going to get a no 100% of the doors you don't knock. Right? So if you don't knock the next door, it's going to be no. Try it. You know,
Wayne Gretzky style, right? It's 100% shots.
Well, exactly, right? So honestly, just keep pushing, because me with certain goals, I know that next door could be the door that gets me that one step closer to my goals. You know, and that's all I do. And I find that when you go in with that more positive attitude, it shows in your conversation, and you can get a lot better conversion rate, because they know that you're out there pushing. And a lot of people honestly respect people. If you can have a good conversation with them, they respect door knockers because they see that you're out there hungry for business.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. You're showing that you're going to do this amount of work too when I list the property, right?
Exactly, because it's not like and this is nothing against them, but it's not like you're from Vivint where you have to door knock. We're in an industry where you don't have to do anything.
Right.
We are the select few that are choosing to do this. Right? And they respect that because a lot of the times I'll get an answer saying, hey, I've never seen someone from real estate door knock me. What are you doing?
Right.
And then you start building a bit of an image there.
Yeah, absolutely. And how would you say you stay motivated being your first year in the industry? It can be a challenge, and we have some people here that are either new into the industry or coming into the industry, and your first year does present itself with some challenges that you're not always prepared for. You jump in and you see the highlight reel of what a real estate agent is, right?
Yeah.
And then the reality comes and hits you. What do you do in order to stay motivated and keep pushing through that? Not just rejection, but how do you stay motivated in times of difficulty?
Definitely. Well, a lot of it is who you surround yourself with, and also just following your dream. Like I have big dreams, and I feel, based on my personality, that I'm obligated to achieve something extraordinary. Not everyone is willing to do the 4-hour sleep or do the hustle that almost all of us in this group do on a daily basis. I think we owe it to ourselves to achieve something beyond what the average person will. So that keeps me going, know that I should fulfill what our true potential is. On top of that, like I say, it's who you surround yourself with. I am part of the exotic car community, and for example, on the weekend I went for a drive with a friend in her Lamborghini, and just seeing what all these people are able to achieve, it lets you know that when you keep pushing and when you're constantly, diligently chasing after your dreams, putting the work in, it will come true. But you've got to be methodical about it. So surrounding yourself with people who have achieved far beyond what you can even imagine keeps you hungry.
How do you do that? How do you go about surrounding yourself around these people?
Yeah.
A lot of them are tougher people to get a hold of and tougher to be around. So how would you recommend to somebody?
So what I always recommend to people is find out what your little niche is. For me, it's cars. That's why I have a purple car. I don't have bus benches because bus benches aren't me. I'm a car guy. So when I got into real estate, I wanted my branding to be true and authentic to me. And not just what works for everyone, So for me, I got into a wealthier group just because it's the car community. And what I did is I just went to the Lamborghini dealer when I moved to Calgary 2 years ago, every week for the first month, because I was so inspired just by seeing these cars. In New Brunswick, you never see one, right? And when I started building up relationships with people at the dealer, they first invited me to their private event. And from there, I met my friend Angel, who took me out on the weekend, and they have networks. And they start introducing you to people, because what happens with me is, even though I'm around wealthier people, they know I'm not trying to get something from them. We can have a conversation about cars till the next week, right? So it's true and it's honest. And that's what I recommend for everyone to do. It doesn't matter if it's a wealthy group or any sort of group, and I'm sure Nolan will speak to this on building community. Find what you can relate to people on and build your foundation that way. Because then every conversation is going to be true and authentic and something that you can both relate on. Because if you just go to a luxury car group and try and pick their brain and get a meeting with them, they know you're trying to get something from them. If you can't speak about their car or why they got it or your passions, it's never going to work. But find out what's true to you and leverage that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then more on the real estate front, you've really started to leverage video.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
So tell us a little bit more about how you're approaching video and how it's impacting your business.
For sure. So again, going into real estate, you see that the States is a little bit ahead of us, in terms of, like you said, with Zillow, all of these different things. So as we talked about, 8 months before getting into the business, I started looking at what trends were doing down there. Brian Casella, people like that. I talked to them frequently on Facebook and saw how they built such success. And it's through leveraging modern technology, because when you get in video, and I have people that have now worked with me because of my GSD video, because maybe they saw a few pictures and thought, maybe because of the purple BMW and all this sort of image, I might be like douchey or something like that. But honestly, they assumed that. But when they saw the video and saw usually how genuine I am, and when they get video allows people to see your personality, right? So, because it's not just the pictures and the best ones that you're putting up there, it's you, right? You can't fake it on the video because it's live, right? So when you do something like that, it gives people a true opportunity to see what you're about, how your personality is, and if they want to work with you.
Right.
And that's something special because we are, at the end of the day, in a people business. Yes, it's transactional, but it's people-based. So the more people can get an understanding of our personalities before even meeting us in person, that is what we should look for, you know? And that's even why I use Instagram stories, is because I have people who frequently watch my stories, and I'll meet them in 2 months, and they say, hey, Mike, I feel like I know you before I've even met you. And they like that because then they know automatically from day one when we do meet in person that we're going to get along.
Right.
It's not going in blind. Right. So I think, yes, when we talk about technology, it can be detrimental to the human connection, but when you take a different approach to it and leverage it in a way that gives people an opportunity to know you, if you are being real, because I do post videos about when I go door knocking and I get terrible results for some reason, because like on Saturday I door knocked, I don't know how many doors, but it's a long weekend, no one's home. You know, I posted a video about how much that sucked. Be honest with people, right? Because those who do post everything that's all sunshine and rainbows, that again is a lie. So
what do you say to somebody though that, because most of the time with video, it's being uncomfortable in front of that camera, right? Until you've started to do it. I launched a podcast in Calgary, and this was January. And when I first started doing the podcast, JD was my first interview. It was very difficult for me.
Yeah.
And video is very similar. People feel that vulnerability. What do you say to somebody who says, I don't want to do video because I don't like how I look?
That's a tough one. So honestly, video isn't for everyone. Right. And some people try and force it, and they do see that they're not the best on camera, you know? Find different ways. Maybe you're not a personable person in terms of video media, but maybe, like you mentioned earlier, you are that board game person. Yep. You're maybe a bit of an introvert, and you can find your way that way. You don't have to use video. You don't have to use modern technology, because we do know that a good balance of the both can get great results. But what I started doing, because I wasn't a social media guy, I hated social media before I got into real estate. If you looked at my personal account for 2 years, I had 33 posts. 2 years. I never used it, but I saw that this is the way of the future. So honestly, what I started doing is recording videos at my kitchen table. I stacked my real estate license books, yay high, and put my GoPro on top and started filming in my kitchen. Filming videos of me repeatedly until I got comfortable. You know, and it took a few evenings of me starting over and swearing, and now I just record the bloopers because I look like a complete idiot, but it's going to be fun to release later this year. But it's, again, just same with door knocking, same with anything. Be cautious about what you want to do, and then just be diligent and consistent about it. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you get.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. What do you say to somebody who is on the community front? What do you say to somebody who doesn't know how to necessarily approach building a community, like you said, cars or something like that? How do you, if somebody doesn't have a thing, how do you go about doing that?
You know, one thing that you can do is there's so many meetups in Calgary, you know. There's so many opportunities. If you go to meetup.com, see what's out there. Find out something that you just enjoy doing. You know, so many people will, maybe their things not hiking, but they like getting out. You know, there's so many different ways that if you put yourself out there enough, you'll start finding stuff that you enjoy and people that you start enjoy doing it with, and you can start building it on that. So it doesn't have to be your little thing, but as long as you start enjoying these things and can show that to other people that you're surrounded with, that's what starts building the authentic connection there. So I think that's just start putting yourself out there, because me not being from Calgary, being young, I had to start ground zero because I didn't have the core friend group. I had no sphere. My friends are too young to buy. So like I had to start from zero. So I just started putting myself out there to meetups, seminars, car groups, bike groups, everything. And then I started honing into what I really enjoyed. So for about 4 months there, I went to every single meetup on the face of Calgary. And then I started seeing what worked, what didn't, and started pointing myself in that direction.
That's perfect. I think that's great. That's a great place to leave. Is just get yourself out of that comfort zone and get started.
Yeah, because the more people see you out there, the more they're going to get to know you. Like especially with these awesome guys from Edmonton. Like the more people see you here, there, and everywhere, and see your posts and see your videos, they'll start recognizing you. And that's what you want in our industry is people to start recognizing you, seeing you different places, and that's how you can start leveraging your branding. And that's what I did with the car, and that's why the car has been so useful for me.
Yeah. So if anybody doesn't follow him on Instagram, go to the Purple Realtor and have a look at his car. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Awesome, buddy.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Okay, now we have Mr. Nolan.
Perfect.
Thank you. Yeah. Great info, buddy.
By the way, where'd you get my high school headshot?
Yeah, you look a little different now. You look a little different.
Who's that guy? All right.
That was last year, right? It's the stress of real estate.
Yeah, that's just the weird, right?
The stress of real estate, yeah. That's what happens, exactly. So Nolan is a mortgage broker. We're not going to hold that against him here.
Thanks.
But he's with Mortgage 360, and he has truly built an amazing community around himself. And he's built it through all sorts of different facets. Anytime I'm out at some sort of chamber event, he's always there. And he's truly just always putting himself out there, built up a team, and oftentimes I joke with him because he has an idea that's related to building your network or building your database, and I joke with him because I tell him I steal every single one of his ideas and I run with it. So he's going to be a great person for us to chat with. So how did you, in your first few years, mortgages are very similar to real estate, commission-based, you have to go out there, grind, and get your business. Mm-hmm. How did you go about doing that your first few years in the business?
Everything was right place, right time, and sorry, as I sit here and I listen to Mike, it dawns on me that really it was all FaceTime. It was being right place, right time, and in contact with the right people. And what that really meant was, you can try to. I don't know everybody. I definitely don't know everybody. But what I do is, I make a conscious decision. Sorry, I'm trying to make it a little lighter. I make a conscious decision to make sure I do know the right people. So I'll consciously make sure that I have FaceTime with people that not necessarily are better or important than other people, but people who are positive, people who are energetic, people who are trying to do the right things and build community like what Mike's doing this morning. I'll consciously make an effort to put myself in front of those people. And then it's just a matter of FaceTime. So, if it means, watching a guy like Ron Mannix go and talk at Calgary Chamber event, and at the end going up and just saying a quick, hey, thank you for doing this, really appreciate it, that's it. And then the next time seeing him say, hey, I saw you at that Calgary Chamber event, thank you for doing that again. And then over the course of time, 7 or 8 times after seeing him, just every time just, saying hi, he starts to remember you, and you build relationships that way. The other thing that I've noticed is, like Mike was talking about, building relationships with influential people. James Bocher, good friend of both of ours, he's a good example. I went to high school with him, never really had a relationship with him until a couple of years ago when he had a fire at his shop. It was the second fire that Fiasco Gelato's had. For those of you who don't know Fiasco Gelato, they're now huge across Canada. Garth Brooks just they sent us a picture yesterday of the image. Garth Brooks requested a Fiasco Gelato bar at the concert here the last couple of days. He's made this huge impact in Calgary, huge impact now across Canada. But when he had the fire, everybody would call and say, "Hey, what do you need? Can I come help? What can I do?" And a lot of times those are like genuine offers for help, but what can you actually do to help the guy? Where you aren't saying, "What can I do? I'm going to go do something." And with him, I knew he was a hockey fan and he was stressed out, so I just said, "Hey, why don't we go catch a game?" And that started a massive friendship. Like, he's easily one of my best friends now, just because we did something that was kind of custom to him, of value to him at a time when he needed it. And that's how you build those relationships with people who, who you want to build relationships with. That's where great friendships come from. It's not about thinking about what's in it for me. If I build this friendship, it's about what can I do for that person. And then from there, the business grows.
And how do you make sure that you are in the right place at the right time and building the relationships with those people that you do want to target? So if you want to target somebody in the work, I say target, but not necessarily that. It's more you want to build a relationship with somebody. How do you make sure that you are in the right place at the right time?
Yeah, I mean, with James, I wouldn't even look at it as targeting. I would look at it as there were synergies. I liked the way he operated. I liked what he was doing for Calgary. I could model myself and my business after that. So then how do I build a relationship with him? And then from there, it's just a matter of, it was asking questions, getting to know him, right? Genuinely caring about what the answers to the questions were, and then paying attention and looking for, those opportunities to go and wow him or offer him something that was of more value than, just saying what do you need.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and following through with it.
Totally.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Since you've been in the industry for longer than some others, if you could go back and start all over again, and you got your mortgage license tomorrow, was there anything you would do differently?
So 13 years ago, there was no Facebook, there was nothing like that, no social media. If I went back 13 years, probably not a lot that I would change because it just worked. But if I went back 5 years and I watched like what some of our agents have done and some of our people have done, I tell every single person that joined us in their first year, shut down your Facebook account. There's a slippery slope of sitting in your PJs in front of your computer all day long and thinking that you're doing work. I'd do everything I could to shut that down, get out and be face-to-face with as many people as possible. Do exactly what Mike's doing. I mean, what Mike's doing is not the easy way of doing it. I mean, door knocking, getting out, meeting people like that, that's the hard stuff, but that's the stuff that pays off, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Since you're looking at the real estate industry just one step removed, and looking at the 5,200 realtors in Calgary and that sort of thing, what do you see come up on a regular basis that you seem to think is where realtors are falling short? Is there something that they're doing on a grand scale, not necessarily in Calgary, I should say, but just is there something that realtors aren't doing that they should be doing more?
So as far as like where they're falling short, I see a lot of people spending too much time like posting on social media and whatnot like that. Like Mike's got the balance. He's doing the videos and he's doing the FaceTime, and not like FaceTime like on your phone, but like FaceTime face to face, doing this sort of stuff. The one thing I do see with the most successful realtors we have, their next transaction is embedded in the transaction that they're doing right now, and this is common through every single one of the top producers. Their system and their structure for doing things at the moment they're in the transaction sets them up for the very next one. There's a gal named Marnie Campbell who she likes to joke that she steals all of our ideas too. Yeah. By the way, you can have all of our ideas. There's an interesting one about the foodies thing that I'll get to in a bit. But like her whole system is she's got a binder that she hands to the client on day one. It's leather. It's got an insert that's got the client's name built into it, like it says their actual name on it. It's their binder where they can put all of their sheets, everything's in there, and the whole system's set up so that when they get it, they go, oh wow, nobody's ever done this for me as a realtor. And then everything from that point is, nobody's ever done this for me, nobody's ever done this for me. And just because of that client is already thinking, who's the next person I'm going to refer to? Or more importantly, refer to this realtor, but more importantly, when they're sitting at the coffee maker or they're sitting at the water cooler, they're comparing notes with other people about what their realtors did. And guess who is winning the conversation every single time, right? It's Marnie's clients. And that leads to more transactions, because when you're a realtor and your client's sitting there talking to their colleagues about, how you did the transaction, and if you lose that conversation, guess you're never seeing another client from them, right? I see this with Mike and Melina a lot too. Their clients are consistently referring them again because of how good the process is throughout. So it's all about if you can build your business from the perspective of when my clients talk about me and compare notes with their friends, you win that conversation every single time, then you've already won. And then for the new guys, the only thing you have to do is go and find the first deal, right? And once you got the first one, you're pretty much set. And then how do you find the first one? That's FaceTime. I do open houses.
Yeah.
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 There's a realtor down in Fort Collins. She was Rookie of the Year in northern Colorado. She did something like 104 open houses in the first year of business, and she did something like $300,000 GCI, gross commission.
Gross commission, yeah.
So just doing open houses, knew nobody, airdropped in the city, open houses, and then had a process that once the clients were dealing with her, it was so good that she always won the water cooler conversation.
Absolutely, yeah. And you have to wow them like we are. We're in a competitive industry, as most industries are, really. It's not just real estate. We're all in competitive industries. And I think that differentiation is huge, right? So tell us now about your Calgary foodies and that community that you've built around that, and how that relates into your mortgage business.
So I don't have to talk about how valuable it is because you guys already did, right? Back in 2009, my now wife and I, we were about 3 or 4 weeks into dating. We were sitting there having pho at Kodo Vietnamese, which is one of the few Vietnamese shops that's like still around from back then. And we were sitting there and we're talking about, taxes and write-offs because we're mortgage brokers, geeks like that. And we started talking about the fact that, if you buy a client dinner, only write off 50% of it, right? But if it's advertising, you can write off 100% of it. So do you guys don't know this? So when you're buying meals,
They pay for our meals now.
they pay.
You're one step ahead. Yeah.
When you're buying meals for anything, write something about it because you can write off 100% of it because it's advertising, right? So what ended up happening was we're having this conversation. Yeah, we could write it off if it's advertising, and Jen's like, well, maybe we should start a food blog or something. And this is in the early days of food blogging. And we went, okay, so we did it. It goes on 3 months, and then all of a sudden at month 3, we post our top 10 restaurants for 2009, and it blows up. It's all over the city. 25,000 page views in a day. The site goes down, kind of like this stupid one did today. And the media attention goes crazy. We end up being, for the next 5-6 years, the #1 ranked food blog in Western Canada. And it gets picked up by Rem Magazine, it gets picked up by Richard Robbins, it gets picked up by the Ninja Selling Guys, it gets picked up by Inman, it gets picked up by Tom Ferry, and all of a sudden across the board now, there's this new thing about building a foodie network so that you can, market to it right off the meals, but also market to a database that is not necessarily for real estate, but for something that's a common theme. And the quote that came out of it was, if you go into a party and you're the guy who's talking about real estate the whole time, you're instantly the guy that nobody at the party is talking to. But if you go into the party and you start talking to people about things they're actually interested in, like food, now all of a sudden you're one of the cool kids at the party and your network grows. So the whole thing, we've got 7,000 email subscribers on the Calgary Foodies database. By the way, we stopped doing this because when we had a kid, we realized that going out and eating was impossible.
We should do a new one.
Well, it's still there. We
How
still
do you
got the
know
seven. Totally. If anybody wants to buy Calgary Foodies, it's still there. It's available. It's got a 7,000 person email list. We've probably done somewhere in the neighborhood of $250,000 in revenues just off of going out, eating dinner, and writing about it. By the way, the one difference that we have probably from you guys is we've never ever taken a meal from any restaurants. We've always been anonymous. Actually, sorry, that's not true. We took one meal from a restaurant called Petite that also had fires. Maybe people should stop hanging out with me. We took one meal from them, but we've never taken a meal. We've always been anonymous. And the big thing is we've never written a bad thing about any restaurant because those are small businesses. And the stat is one bad review kills a restaurant. Just one. So we don't want to be the people doing that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's great. and you've also built your business from what I see on. So there's the foodie side, and there's also the Calgary Chamber. You belong to the Calgary Chamber.
Yep.
You're out at that a lot. How much has that impacted your business?
It's been huge for meeting people. It's kind of interesting. We went into the chamber and they have all these different levels, and we bought a kind of a higher level, and they said, the actual sales lady, she said, well, I actually think you should buy this lower one. And I went, well, no, we'll take the higher one. And so we take the higher one, and all of a sudden, the thing I noticed about the chamber is they make an effort to connect people.
Mm-hmm.
So they will go out of their way to say, okay, Mike meet Nolan, Nolan meet Mike, and just connect people within industries. And that for me has been massive. I mean, I don't think I can put a number on it. We try to track everything. It's hard because it's just like relationships that bloom, but it's definitely been worth its weight in gold to us.
Yeah.
And paying for the higher level of membership, like we're $6,000 a year with them. Guaranteed we're getting the $6,000 worth of value, and I believe that because we're at such a high tier with them, that they are going above and beyond because we're paying them so much money. And by the way, I also think that being a member of the chamber is so important because you look at what Adam Legg is the CEO, what he's doing for the city, what he's doing as far as talking about making the city better, innovating, diversifying out of oil, what they're doing in the mayoral race right now as far as being advocates for small business. I think they're necessary, and people don't realize when they think of a chamber, they think of their granddads hanging around drinking coffee all day, right? But the chamber that we have in Calgary is one of the best in the world, and they are so important to our city.
Yeah, they are. They totally are. And we're at the lower tier. I think we're at the 500 or something, but we get a ton of value. You're around like-minded people, just like this. You're having great conversations with people that are in the entrepreneurial space. I think it's very, very valuable. Now, just lastly, before we jump into a little bit more Q&A, how do you interact with your database on a regular basis? What sort of systems do you have with your database? I know that's a huge loaded question, but what are some tips do you have for people that are starting to build their database and how to interact with them?
Database is the hard part. So it really is. I mean, we've been in this 13 years. We know we have 900 people in our database. We do everything we can to make as much, make as many contacts as possible. We have a couple things we do. One is we do things like what we did yesterday, Labor Day game. We had 52 people out for Labor Day game and a tailgate party yesterday. We'll do like a Thanksgiving pie giveaway where we'll go into Glamorgan Bakery and buy pies at $6 a piece. We'll send out to 900 people. We'll have 100 people respond. So we'll give away 100 pies at $600 total cost. And you think, oh, $600, that's a lot. We'll do $15,000 to $20,000 in revenue off of that day. Movie days are massive. Like, you wouldn't believe what happens when you fill a room full of parents and their kids for like a Cars movie. Again, you'll invest $2,000, you'll make $10,000, $15,000 in revenue every single time. The big thing that we started last year was a thing called the Calgary Collection. And this is a new business. It's kind of like we've been experimenting with it. Mike's a part of it. But what we do is we feature, it was 12. What we realized when we were featuring 12 businesses was that people were getting mail every single month, and that was it was turning into something like, wow, this is great, to, oh, that's just another piece of trash. So now we're featuring 4 businesses a year, and what happens is it comes in a postcard, and it'll have my name or our agent's name or the realtors who are on its name. By the way, we do this for the realtors just because we're doing it, we can manage it for them, so it's easy. So it'll show up and it'll be like a free scoop of ice cream at Fiasco Gelato, or Phil and Sebastian's today, or Rosso?
Rosso Coffee, Phil and Seb food.
Okay, so Rosso Coffee does one where they get a free cup of coffee, and the clients get it. It's unexpected. It's free. What the clients think in the back of their mind is that when you hand this thing in, it's that it's coming back to you and you're paying for it as the realtor. But what's actually happening is, like a company like Rosso, who's progressive. If you haven't been up to their shop, that's just up the hill. They're amazing. Rosso's giving us the coffee. We're sending it out. We're paying the advertising costs to get it out in the mailers, and the clients are getting a free coffee coming from us and Rosso together, or us and Fiasco Gelato together. And as opposed to it being like, hey, here's the listings for this month. It's actual physical mail that's coming to them, and they're actually looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's Mike going to give me this month or this quarter?
Yeah. And yeah, if you guys don't subscribe to it, go check it out, Calgary Collection. It's unbelievable. We've had a ton of great response from it. Like, they're really cool things that get sent out. And we used to do like a monthly newsletter, and we never heard too much about it until we started doing Calgary Collection, and they got photos done, yeah, free coffee, free gelato, and we get a ton of calls on it. So it's definitely worth it. Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
You can stay up here though, because
Okay.
we're going to pull Mike up again. But thank you. Okay, Mr. Mike, come on back up. So just in the interest of time, we're going to skip the activity, which is too bad because it was a really fun
Oh,
activity.
sorry,
but-
I talked to you.
yeah, it's your fault, really.
Give me a second.
So now we just wanted to do more of a fireside chat, and if you guys have any questions, we can open it up to you for either Mike as a brand new agent out there working hard and hustling, Nolan, the mortgage broker who's been around the business for a while, and an author too, by the way. So if you guys have any questions, if not, I'll jump in and keep firing away at these guys. But does anybody have anything that's came up in their minds from the two talks? Yes.
I'm curious, Ryan, what's your book called?
This is the second one, so there's two, The Mortgage Millionaire and Golf Balls Don't Float. Anybody wants one of these, just hand me a business card, I'll send it to you. Golf Balls Don't Float was a national bestseller, about 12,000 copies sold. Mortgage Millionaire is about 950 copies sold. Apparently people like golf better than mortgages. So,
That's hilarious.
I brought this up just because Mike was talking about doing things to differentiate himself with things like the purple BMW. For me, one of the big things that differentiated me was I wrote a golf book and then I give it to everybody. And anything you can do that's like custom to you that you can give that people are going to go, oh, that's different, and that they'll remember you by, is a positive for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Does anybody have anything like that they do for their clients, or they give their clients that would be a very differentiator? What if you're open to sharing it, I guess? No? Yeah, we've struggled with that for years and years, and we've gone through all sorts of different things to try and differentiate yourself, and it's tricky. It's tricky. But I mean, if you can write a book, I mean, I think that's a pretty big differentiator. Anybody else have any questions for them right before we get started here? No? Okay, well, you guys can feel free to jump in at any point in time on Facebook. You guys can jump in too. If there's any questions, we'll get to them because we are live. Mike, what tools in your life, so whether that's technology tools or anything, what are some tools that you could not live without in your business right now?
Definitely the cell phone.
Yeah.
But when I say that, I give a lot of credit to what Nolan said, is that you have to be mindful of your usage, So you do find yourself using these tools that people preach about, and you end up scrolling and swiping for days, and that takes away so much time from what you need to be doing to actually generate business. Because what I find is one of the pitfalls, this is what you asked Nolan, one of the pitfalls with most realtors is they talk about all these things they're going to do to get more business, and they never do any of them. They say they want to take it to the next level, and I ask them, okay, how often are you cold calling? Never. How often are you door knocking? Well, I'm scared. How often do you post on social media? Well, I don't like my selfies. So the cell phone is a very useful tool, and that's what I use daily, but I use it honestly daily because I use my notepad when I go to doors to take emails down. Mm-hmm. Because I don't write paper, because it's easier to fit in these titles. Using your phone, but using it in a very strategic way, because you will fall into a loophole of death if you use it for your own personal use and not your business.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if you're swiping right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, settle down.
Yeah. Nolan, any tools that you use on a regular basis that you couldn't live without?
Yeah, I mean, I'm phone too. I use iPhone 7 Plus, the big one. I had like an iPhone 5, and I swore I'd never go to like the massive phone, and the day I did, like now my wife has like the slightly smaller one, and I'm like, oh, that's too tiny. But having like the big phone and being able to use it and use it correctly, and the one thing that resonates with me about like using it and how to use it, especially with social media, is use it as a pull, not a push. So instead of trying to push information at people that they may or may not care about, use it to pull information so you can customize things. Like things like with James, when he posted, oh shoot, had another fire at Fiasco. Well, now I've got information